When writing a summary, you want to ask yourself what's the overall structure of the original text. In other words, what's the text skeleton? If you're reading a research article or magazine article, the backbone of the composition will be reflected in the headings and subheadings. The first step is to actually read the original text. After you finish reading it, you're going to read it again, but this time you're reading it for the sole purpose of writing a summary. Take note of how many main headings and subheadings there are. Write them on a separate piece of paper to create an outline. If you're asked to write a long summary, then follow the outline laid out by that writer. If you're asked to write a short summary, then you probably have too many headings and subheadings. To do this, you'll just speak more generally about the ideas outlined by that writer. When writing a summary, you want to locate the main idea or thesis statement of the text. In academic text, you can find the main idea or thesis statement in a single sentence, usually in the introduction. However, for more literary or creative texts like personal essay, a blog article, magazine article, you won't find that main idea or thesis statement in a single sentence. It's either going to be in the body or conclusion of the text, or it's going to be implied. If the text has headings and subheadings, first inform the audience of the main idea or thesis statement, then follow the structure of the text laid out by the writer. If the text doesn't have headings and subheadings, then you could still start with the main idea or thesis statement and then structure the body of the summary with the 3 or 4 central ideas communicated to support that main idea or thesis statement. Pretend you were asked to write 3 or 4 main headings for this text. That's how you can structure your summary. Once you have the overall structure of the summary, it's important to know that the devil is in the details. You want to include significant terms, definitions, or concepts, which are probably included in the title as well. However, students have a tendency to either include all terms, definitions, and concepts, which can be a problem if there are a dozen of them, or students spend too much time explaining the definitions, terms, and concepts because they're trying to match the amount of time that the writer spent on explaining these terms and concepts. You're going to have to be more brief and concise. This is hard to do if you don't fully understand the terms and concepts. If this is the case, reread the original text, use a dictionary, or ask for help from an instructor, tutor, or peer. And last, if you choose to include a quote, which can be a nice touch, just use 1 or 2 max and make sure they're not too long. In general, the quote shouldn't be more than 10% of the summary. Other important details that could help organize the structure include words like first, thereafter, or concludes that, which signals to the reader a beginning, middle, and end. In this example, the summary starts with the main thesis and then the signal words are laid out to direct the summary. Silva claims that college students should spend more time studying rather than partying. In a writing course, students spend, on average, 30 minutes to 1 hour studying. She first provides evidence about. Thereafter, Silva claims that, and then finally, Silva concludes that. In this next example, details like specifying the genre helps to organize the summary. Here it's stated that Drawing with Pencils is a memoir about a Mexican immigrant who first came to love drawing. And then over here, using the words Marcus Dorado begins his narrative, inform the reader of the author and that a chronological structure will be used to organize the summary. When writing a summary, you want to avoid evaluating or critiquing the text. This is hard for students to do because you've been trained to analyze what you read since middle school. Trust me, there's plenty of time and space to analyze the text and other parts of the essay, research article, or report. You want to keep a neutral stance when summarizing the reading or source. First, be cautious about misrepresenting the author. Let's take this hypothetical sentence again. Silva claims that college students should spend more time studying rather than partying. In a writing course, students spend, on average, 30 minutes to 1 hour studying. This is because students have far more tests and quizzes in other courses. If nowhere in Silva's essay or article she states that the reason why students only study to 30 to 60 minutes for a writing class is because of quizzes and tests in other courses, then you're putting words in the author's mouth and misrepresenting the author. If this is your idea, then save it for another part of the essay. Or create a clear transition to show that this is in fact your perspective. Like, Silva doesn't acknowledge that students probably neglect writing courses because they have far more tests and quizzes in other courses. Now it's clear that this is your perspective. Second, You want to avoid evaluative language that can also misrepresent the author and insert your opinion. In the original sentence, Silva wrote that students spend on average 30 minutes, and in this version it states that students waste 30 minutes to 1 hour studying. You want to make sure that the tone of the summary matches the author's stance and tone as well. When writing a summary, you need to credit the author or authors. In general, if a works cited or references page is not required, then you need to contextualize the source as much as possible in the essay, article, or report. In other words, add as much information about the author, his or her credentials, and the title of the source. Some newspapers will include info about who funded the study or where the study was conducted. If a works cited page or references page is required, then you can get away with saying a little less about that because the reader can simply go to the bottom of the essay, article, report to locate that source. Also, some writers purposely include more information about the author and source for rhetorical effect. In other words, they want to highlight the author's credentials and expertise or emphasize the significance of the source title because they're trying to connect it to their own argument. When writing a summary, find out if it has to be an MLA format, which is commonly used in the humanities. In MLA format, what's important to readers in the humanities are the credentials and expertise of the author, the title and genre of the source, and specific quotes, which allow readers to hear the original text. Readers don't want a summary of Shakespeare, they want to hear Shakespeare. Don't forget, if you're quoting, include that page number. For some genres, even if you're summarizing or paraphrasing, you have to include the page number regardless, so keep track of where you're getting your info from. When writing in APA format, which is commonly used in the social sciences and sciences, what's important to readers is the date of publication and the author's last name. Scientists and researchers seldom include the source title unless they want to highlight its significance in the field of science or the social sciences. They seldom quote because what's important are the study results and findings. However, when they do quote, whether it's an important definition from a scientist like Einstein, or it's a quote from one of their subjects, then make sure you include a signal phrase like, in one focus group interview, one student stated that, and then include the page number with the letter P and a period with the page number. Remember, in MLA format, there's no P, just the page number alone. And finally, when writing a summary, think about the significance of the source. In other words, what holds it up on its 2 square feet? Oftentimes, this will be the last sentence of the summary, but I've also seen writers state the significance right after they state the main idea or thesis statement. If you want to signal the significance of the source, consider using words like thus, in some, because. For instance, drawing with pencils is significant because, and then finish that sentence. Represents or signifies is another great signal word. For instance, drawing with pencils represents or signifies the struggles of Mexican Americans. And last, indicative. Drawing with pencils is indicative of Mexican Americans' struggle to assimilate. Here's a little tip. Some writers do not state the significance of the overall source. Instead, they write the significance of one of the main claims or significant piece of evidence. Writers will close the summary this way to create a transition to their own argument. Here's one example. One interesting point stressed by Dorado is how contemporary Mexican-American artists have to live in the shadow of Diego Rivera, who brought Mexican artists to white American galleries. Let's review. To write an effective summary, locate the headings or subheadings, or imagine that you had to write your own headings and subheadings if there aren't any. This is the backbone of the summary. Locate the main idea or thesis statement, whether it's clearly stated or implied, and state the significance of the source. Actively employing these strategies and reading successful models of summaries will send you on your way to writing effective summaries.